Ladies and gentlemen, Kawhi Leonard is going to be a Toronto Raptor. Or so or people may think still. I don't know. I've been reading this article from one Michael Grange of Sportsnet. Pretty well connected. We all know who Michael Grange is. We're gonna get louder this time. Listen, there are some things that we got to get to in regards to speaking about Kawhi Leonard. And yes, I know. You are not the only one who are tired. And I mean, absolutely tired of speaking about Kawhi Leonard. But because this trade is on pause, we still have absolutely no idea what is going to happen here. But from what I have read and from the reports, according to Michael Grange, it does seem like the trade will go through with Kawhi Leonard. And he will be in a Raptors uniform come opening night. So listen, this podcast is going to be a lot of reading. And we're going to stop and break things down as we go. But if you need information, it will be here today on the Mike Roach Show. So have this playing in the background. Damn it, watch me, play me on audio. I don't give a damn what you do. But stay here because there are a lot of things that we have to discuss and speak about. But from every indication that I'm seeing, it looks like Kawhi Leonard will be playing opening night for the Raptors. And so we can get into this just a little bit here. So first of all, Michael Grange, who I know personally, shout out to Michael Grange, put out an article August 7th, a couple days ago, 2:47 p.m., where he spoke a bit more about Kawhi Leonard and all of this stuff going on with Steve Ballmer and the Clippers, right? We already know what's going on because Pablo Torre drops another huge bombshell about the Clippers, Steve Ballmer circumventing money through another party. So this is not even about aspiration anymore. This is about Daktronics. You heard me correctly. I said this is about Daktronics. Saying, Mike, Daktronics? Who the hell is Daktronics? What are you talking about? It's a Jumbotron company. A company that makes Jumbotrons. Apparently, allegedly, Steve Ballmer was using Daktronics to funny funnel through to pay one Kawhi Leonard. And so we're going to get into a bunch of different things, but this is just getting more ridiculous by the week at this point because you're like, okay, Pablo Torre at this point, every week is coming out with another story talking about Kawhi Leonard. What is it going to be next? What is it going to be next? I mean, seriously, first it was aspirations. Then we're talking about some soccer team up in the state of New York somewhere. I mean, what the hell is going on here? Now we're talking about Daktronics. I mean, this is ridiculous. But listen, let's just start it here. Let's start it here. And I'm going to start the article here. So it starts by saying this. It's just finding that right balance. In absence of hard information, the tendency is to look for clues that may or may not be staring us in the face all the way along. In this case, keep that first quote from NBA Commissioner Adam Silver in mind. Officially, the NBA has not finished its investigation into the potential salary cap circumventing scheme the Los Angeles Clippers allegedly used as a salary top-up to make sure Kawhi Leonard was getting all the money he was entitled to and then some on deals dating back to 2021 to 2024. Keep listening. The latest report by Pablo Torre on his award-winning podcast of a seemingly unlikely endorsement arrangement for Leonard, while the Clippers, in this case, scoreboard manufacturer Daktronics, seems like only one more fuel to the bonfire that threatens to bring down the Clippers, the super rich and powerful owner Steve Ballmer, and derail the trade that was supposed to bring Leonard to the Raptors, but unofficially, ? Now we're going to start getting into some things here. Pay attention. Pay attention. Per league sources, there's a belief that the investigation has already moved beyond its fact-finding stage, and the parties involved, specifically the Clippers and the National Basketball Players Association, which is monitoring the situation to see what, if any, consequences befall Leonard, are working quietly to get the entire issue resolved, something Silver hinted at back on July 14th when he last spoke publicly on the issue. The most likely outcome? A negotiated settlement. Listen, a negotiated settlement where the NBA gets to enforce some version of its rules. Ballmer can save face, and Leonard can play for the Raptors. And Leonard can play for the Raptors. You see, here's the thing. This whole situation is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this. So if we're really breaking this thing down and we're asking ourselves, how the hell or why the heck did this thing happen in the first place? So the Steve Ballmer ends up buying the Clippers from Donald Sterling, who was an absolute disgrace, by the way. And Steve Ballmer, sorry, I'm already saying the word money, has more money, I believe, than any NBA owner that I can think of. Not at just the NBA, in sports, period. This guy has a lot of money, a lot of ducats. I mean, I'm hearing anything in between 150 and $200 billion. The franchise, when he buys it, is an absolute joke. And I mean, they did have some good years. Don't get me wrong, right? Like when CP3 was there and DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin and all those guys. They had some pretty good years. They were making the playoffs. They weren't getting anywhere, but they were making the playoffs and doing a little bit of damage. They were very exciting to watch. They were a good team. It was must-see TV at times. But they still hadn't won a championship. You were still pretty much a laughingstock, and you're going up against the LA Lakers. So when Steve Ballmer ends up purchasing this team, he's saying, all right, what can I do here? Remember, this is a man with a lot of money. A lot of money. And a lot of these owners believe that you can buy your way to a championship. So what does he do? He comes in and he knows that obviously Kawhi Leonard is on a 1-year rental with the Raptors. Kawhi Leonard, one of the best players in the league, even up till this day, from a defensive standpoint and offensively, dude's money, efficient, just flat out knows how to play. I remember, for those who don't know, if this is your first time watching me, I've worked in broadcasting for the Raptors for a long time. Don't do it as much now, but for a very long, over a decade we're talking about. And that's up to this past year. I remember being at these games, seeing Steve Ballmer and Lawrence Frank in attendance, in the front row, watching. And at that time, everybody now is just really pissed off. Because they're saying, what the hell is going on here? Is this not tampering? Is your owner and GM, like, what is going on here? They're just sitting down in the front row in our home arena in Toronto, stalking this guy, trying to get him to come to the Clippers. This is crazy. And so after the Raptors end up winning that championship, when there was ongoing negotiations between Uncle Dennis, Kawhi Leonard's camp, and the Toronto Raptors, they were asking for all different kinds of stuff. Penthouse, jet, this, that, and the other, all kinds of stuff. And the same thing was going on with the Los Angeles Lakers. And they both put in a complaint with the NBA saying, there's an issue here. They're trying to, I guess, circumvent the salary cap. or get money in different ways. You can't do that. So the NBA already knew about this. And now you're wondering to yourself, all these years later, is the reason Kawhi Leonard left and gone to the LA Clippers because, I mean, yes, we did know and hear rumblings that he did want to go home even before he got to the Raptors. But now you think to yourself, is the reason he wanted to go to the Raptors, or sorry, go back to the Clippers and go home, aside from just being home, yes, and that he could do something potentially pretty special with the LA Clippers, did he go home because this stuff was already happening from back then? It really starts to make you wonder, right? Because and this is the Pandoras box that you keep hearing about when it comes to not only the Clippers, but what the heck is going on around the NBA overall. Maybe in sports, but we'll stick to the NBA here. When you're seeing a lot of these guys have these deals or sign these deals, and they're quote unquote, sacrificing, taking a lot of money off the table, you start to wonder, what about Jalen Brunson? LeBron James signing for a 2-year, $8 million deal with the Philadelphia 76ers. And in no way am I actually saying that I believe something is going on. The point is that are they making this money somewhere else? Are the owners finding another way to funnel money, circumvent the salary cap to pay these guys what they're really deserved, even though it's not coming underneath the NBA salary cap? So it really makes you think here. And so I'm going to continue with this article, but I just want to put some things in perspective for you. Now, whether Tory's last finding is new information to the NBA's investigation or not, a report in The Athletic last month said a second no-show endorsement deal was already part of the investigation. The sense is that it won't affect the next stage of the process, namely figuring out what the league is going to do with the information it has collected. An NBA spokesperson refused comment when reached by Sportsnet about the status of the investigation. A representative of the NBA Players Association didn't respond to a request for comment. Pay attention. The Clippers star has been in limbo of sorts as the trade that would have seen him sent from Los Angeles to Toronto in exchange for All-Star Brandon Ingram, third-year wing Grady Dick, and draft picks was paused by the Raptors pending the outcome of this investigation. So something is put forth towards Bobby Webster's face when he's making this deal. And the NBA says, listen, you can go through with this deal in regards to Kawhi Leonard, but if he is suspended, penalized, whatever happens with Kawhi Leonard, if he is on your team, you now are facing that penalty because he is signed to your team, which we clearly all understand. Okay. But Bobby Webster, thank God, was at least smart enough to say, okay, well, hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. Let's put this thing on pause to see what the findings of this investigation are going to be. And contingent upon what happens, we will move forward from there. But we need to know what the penalties are going to be in this situation before we dry the ink on the paper with this deal. Keep listening. But all along, there has been quiet confidence that the trade would ultimately go forward and league business would be able to resume in time for training camp on September 28th. Keep in mind that only the only month on the NBA calendar where the league goes relatively dormant is August. Don't underestimate a collective will to leave it all until the first week of September when everyone is back at work. Once again, I am reading an article from one Michael Grange of Sportsnet. Okay. Even reports last week in a story in ESPN that the investigation could drag into 2027 if the National Basketball Players Association and or the Clippers took whatever punishment Silver decided onto a potentially lengthy arbitration process were interpreted positively as an indication that the parties involved were setting the parameters for negotiations a more acceptable or at least tolerable outcome for all concerned. And this is a big part of the issue right here. Now, for those who don't understand exactly what that meant, for this thing to actually wrap up and wrap up quickly, if there is a penalty or some type of discipline handed down to Steve Ballmer and Kawhi Leonard, all parties would have to agree to this, meaning Steve Ballmer would have to agree to what the penalty is, and he would have to admit guilt, which, let's just call it what it is. That man ain't admitting a damn thing. Steve Ballmer, a billionaire with all that money, you think he's going to admit anything? That's not going to happen. And on top of that, if something is handed down towards Kawhi Leonard, it would have to be agreed to by the National Basketball Players Association as well. And they are going to fight like hell for Kawhi Leonard. And that owner who has those billions of dollars, he's going to have a lot of lawyers. A lot of lawyers. And trust me, this thing will be tied up. And I mean tied up in litigation for God knows how long. That's the problem. If they don't agree to what the punishment is going to be, it's going to be brought to arbitration, and only God knows how long that's going to take. Let me continue. Which is always worth keeping in mind for the Raptors fans trying to understand if the Leonard trade will ultimately go through or not. Everyone involved in this saga, from the Clippers to the Raptors to Leonard to the league itself, shares a common interest in putting it behind them. Granted, these investigations can take time. The NFL's investigation into whether or not Tom Brady used underinflated footballs, the 2015 AFC Championship, took nearly 2 years to be resolved. The challenge for the league and Silver is how to move on from it while maintaining the credibility of his office and its ability to govern while not causing damage to a league where everyone involved benefits from its collective success. Meaning, Adam Silver now has to find a way to hand down a punishment that is sufficient, that also keeps the league credible, because everybody knows. And listen, I'll say this, and I'll be 100% honest with you, which sucks, because I absolutely want to see Kawhi Leonard in a Raptors uniform, and I think he will be in a Raptors uniform. But if we're keeping it 100, let's be real here. When it comes to Kawhi Leonard, if a heavy hand, if the league really wanted to put down the hammer, Kawhi Leonard should absolutely be suspended for an entire season. I mean, let's be 100% real here. This is really, really nasty work. And if that happened to Kawhi Leonard, even worse should happen for Ballmer. Ballmer should be away from the team, and by away from the team, I mean not being at any games or anything like that. And he should have to pay a fine. Any money that was circumvented through third-party companies to Kawhi Leonard should have to be paid back to the NBA on top of the fine that the league is going to have for them as well. And they should have to give back draft picks, at least one, and a pick swap, and a second round pick back to the Raptors. Will that probably happen? I don't know. But something is going to have to happen, because if you let him get off scot-free, that's where you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems. So I can completely understand that there may be some type of settlement, undisclosed, for Steve Ballmer to pay. And Kawhi Leonard is going to be playing for the Raptors. But make no mistake about it. Even if that is the case, it'll only be this time that happens. It'll only be this time that happens, because after this time, after this fiasco, oh, you better believe he's going to be coming forth publicly with a whole bunch of different rules and regulations that are going to be taking place and are going to be happening if something like this ever happens again. Also, what we have to understand is you don't necessarily want to be more drastic than that when it comes to one Steve Ballmer. Why are you saying that, Mike? Well, what are you going to try to ask him to do? To sell the team because he was cheating? You can't do that. Steve Ballmer, from what I saw, this new stadium, Coliseum, whatever the hell this thing is, apparently this place is incredible that the Clippers are playing in. From what I read, this man bought that arena for approximately $400 million in cash. $400 million in cash. And then put $2 billion into the arena to make it what it is. The point of what I'm trying to say is, if there were something that the NBA could do, and you'd be like, oh, well, you can't have the team anymore, you got to get rid of it. It'd be like, okay, well, damn it, I own the building. So you want to take the team from me? Move it somewhere else. You ain't playing in this building. I'm going to say this again. This man has a lot of money. And when people got that much money, like there's billionaires in this world. And then there's guys like Steve Ballmer who make a lot of billionaires look broke. Like it's incredible. It's crazy. But moving along, it's a tricky path to tread, especially considering that Ballmer has until now been considered a model owner. And by the way, has a roughly, and I mentioned this before, $150 billion fortune he can tap into to play lawyers as necessary. Even in the absence of a magical confession co-signed by Leonard and Ballmer, the Pulitzer Prize winning work by Torre would make it extraordinarily difficult for Silver to wave the whole thing away as a nothing burger. But that doesn't mean the NBA is looking for reasons to drag the league and one of its most powerful and influential owners into a protracted legal battle. The last time the NBA commissioner spoke on the issue was after the NBA Board of Governors meeting in Las Vegas last month. He said he wanted the investigation to be thorough, comprehensive, and fair, while at the same time acknowledging that he has a league to run and that the probe and its findings start and stop with him. Quote, my understanding is that Wachtell Lipton, the firm running the investigation on behalf of the league, is now in the process of going through the information, and that they have gathered and drawn conclusions from that information, Silver said. And I think, yes, it is realistic to think that this can be wrapped up, and I would say needs to be wrapped up before the beginning of next season. So yes, it can be before the beginning of next season, but damn it, the beginning of next season is still 2 months away. On one hand, of course, At the end of the day, the commissioner in this league, I'm the one who ultimately engaged Wachtell. So sure, I could tell them to stop, and I've read those reports where people are saying just tell them to stop, Silver added. But also the benefit of an independent investigation is that they have their own credibility on the line, and presumably I can count on Wachtell to say to me, well, of course, ultimately, if you say we have to stop, we'll stop. But in our report, we're going to say we were required to stop before we felt we had a complete understanding of the situation. And the thing is, this really gets crazy because Pablo Torre pretty much, I wouldn't say necessarily put anybody on blast, but we're talking about one man with limited resources here against an entire firm. With I'm sure they got all kind of documents that Pablo Torre did not see or know about. But now their investigation better be something significant, especially after what Pablo Torre put out. I mean, are you kidding me? So it's just finding the right balance. We're almost done here. Does that sound like someone determined to pursue justice at any cost? Or is Silver giving a glimpse into the pickle he's trying to work through? From the Raptors' point of view, the expectation remains that when all is said and done, pay attention to this now. Listen to me here. That when all is said and done, they will emerge whole with a 7-time All-NBA selection ready to play and hungry to help them compete in the Eastern Conference that has only gotten better and deeper since the New York Knicks won the NBA title back in June. By pausing the trade, the Raptors avoided the ultimate downside risk, which would be Leonard on their roster, his contract being voided, and them being out the assets they gave up to get him in the first place. That's important. That's very important. As well, the other commonly cited risk that Leonard will face a lengthy suspension, listen to me here, for his role in the alleged cap circumvention is something that almost certainly won't come to pass. A matter that has been underreported or not reported previously. The punishments for cap circumvention, it has been pointed out to me, are jointly negotiated by the NBA and the National Basketball Players Association and written into the league's collective bargaining agreement. Pay attention to this part. Nowhere in that language does it say a player can be suspended for participating in cap circumvention. Instead, the collective bargaining agreement penalties for salary cap circumvention can include team fines, direct forfeiture of draft picks, the voiding of any player contract, and a suspension of up to a year for any team personnel found to have engaged in such violation, while the player can be required to disgorge whatever benefits they gain from a third party in a cap circumvention scheme. Meaning, it is not written in the CBA that a player can be suspended for this. From my interpretation and understanding of what I just read. A player suspension is not on the menu. And what if the entire thing gets tied up in arbitration, the whole thing dragging to 2027 possibility? Well, players can continue to play while an arbitration process is ongoing. It's not something that would keep Leonard off the floor. There is also the possibility, even the likelihood, that any arbitration involving Leonard would be expedited by the National Basketball Players Association to get it resolved as quickly as possible, effectively separating it from what could be a long and lengthy arbitration process between Ballmer and the league, if it ever gets to that. And if Leonard's contract is voided for his rule, the Raptors would still have Ingram, Grady Dick, and all the assets they sent the Clippers, and in theory, the possibility of signing Leonard to a new contract as a free agent. What exactly the NBA is going to do to resolve the entire Clippers situation remains up in the air. But from a Raptors perspective, the most likely scenario has the 2019 Finals MVP in Toronto uniform on opening night. You know what? I think we're going to drop a bomb. Grange, damn it. Some good writing right there. Some good stuff. And we went through what we had to we went through what we had to go through. The point of what I'm trying to say is, from what we just went through, it looks like Kawhi Leonard will be in a Raptors uniform on opening night. Despite everything that we've been hearing, reading, and watching from one Pablo Torre. And I'm sure we're about to get another podcast talking about something else soon once again. Kawhi Leonard on opening night, damn it, will be in a Raptors uniform. It will be. And I, for one, I'm looking forward to it. Now, don't get me wrong, and I did mention that should there be some type of consequences, I really do believe so. And make no mistake about it, after this thing gets wrapped up, oh boy, things are going to change in that collective bargaining agreement. I can assure you. Things are definitely going to change. But as of right now, from the information that we just gathered and went through, and I'm sure once again there will be some more coming out soon, I fully believe Kawhi Leonard will still be in a Raptors uniform come opening night. And so, listen, think whatever you want to think about it. We're hoping this thing gets wrapped up soon, but you guys can let me know what your thoughts are in the comments when it comes to this whole situation, and we will talk again very soon.